Now we're getting ready to go on here.
Does YouTube do the recording? Because it just said normally Zoom comes up with recording, and
It's going to be on.
got it.
Apparently, I'm the host now.
Rob, where do you live?
Yes.
Got it. Ping pong.
Jonathan, I'm liking your hat.
Thank you. I bring it out when it's raining out.
What was that?
I bring it out for the rain.
Nice.
Rain too, so.
Hopefully it's not as bad as Texas right now.
Nope. We dodged it. Or it dodged us, one of the two.
Nice.
That is one of the creepiest things I've ever experienced is the sky, everything turning green.
I've never seen it turn green, so I'm happy to report that this is just a vision on YouTube or in the movies.
All right. I think I finally got it. 6:01. Okay. So those of you watching the recording going, what? This is called the joys of technology. There are days that I love technology, and then there's the rest of the year. Welcome to Triple T, number 12. Get this going again. Yes, some days I can multitask, and then there's tonight. For those of you that this is the first time you're watching, my name is TJ Zeville, and I'm we're just going to call it Jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than the master of one. And Triple T is here where we share information, ways to help other people, with an emphasis on NLP and hypnosis. But relax, you do not have to even know how to spell NLP to join us. Just sit back, relax. And we've got people from all over the globe. So happy to see the UK and Australia represented here, as well as people from all over the States. I am so blessed. The way this normally works, we go for about 2 hours. First hour, I've got a couple of things that I collect over the week for talking points, and you guys are welcome to comment, join in whenever you want. Second hour, we open it up, and if there's anything that you have questions on or would like help with, we turn this into a mastermind. Everybody chips in, and we help each other out, because I did not want to start this to be a talking head, as I've seen many do. That being said, hope everybody had a good week. We were just talking, for those of you that got a little bit of the commentary on the front side, Texas had a couple of exciting storm patterns. We had some tornadoes drop down and ruin a few people's years and took a few people's lives, and we got lucky here. And yes, I'm one of those crazy ones that will stand outside until the very last minute, because I would like to know which direction it's coming from, so I know where I can properly hide for the most effect. Couple of funny little stories on that. The village that I grew up in Minnesota, a population 187 people. We had more cattle than people. Actually had a wonderful huge tornado go right through the center of town in 1970 and took down a bunch of businesses and a big grain silo for the railroad. And one of my best friends, my good friends of the family, the father, George, was actually in the bathroom, sitting down in the middle of doing his business. And all of a sudden, rumble and everything's moving. And no, it wasn't the chili beans. And all of a sudden, whoop, the whole top of the house lifted right off, gone. And there he was, just sitting, looking up at the sky where he used to have a ceiling. We used to joke that probably didn't have to wipe after that, did you? I'm sure that would have cleaned me right out. I'd have been done for a week, ready for a colonoscopy, because, you know, there are certain things that a human just shouldn't have to experience. And I'm going to rank that up in the top certain tier. But that's not why we came here to talk about tornadoes and crazy experiences. Let's dive right into some of the things that came up this week that I hope can help some of you out. And trying to figure out, I think I'm going to start with a quote. I come across these amazing quotes during the week, and it brings up stuff that really makes me think. And this one's called Enjoy the Journey. And the quote that I heard was, "The man who loves walking will go farther than the man who loves the destination. You have to love the journey. When you love the journey, the goals just happen. The milestones pop up much quicker." And where I see this predominantly, especially with people that have fitness and health goals in mind, like losing weight. One of the words that I hate in the English language is that word diet. The word die with the letter T attached to it. And everybody hears it, "Oh, I'm on a diet." And I'm like, "Oh, how's it going?" "It sucks. I hate it. I can't." And you look at them and you're like, wow, what's going to keep you going then? And of course, you can, with what we do, we can drill down to values and criteria and find something, a why that is strong enough for them to get up early in the morning to work out, for them to pass on the, 7 slices of pizza and a beer at night, and all of the other things that they've learned to enjoy. But you still, it goes so much easier if they can find a way to enjoy the journey and realize that their destination is not the end point. It has to be a milestone on the way. And one of the things I tell them is get rid of your scale. Number 1, done. Stop looking at the scale. I've had weight loss clients that, "I've been doing this for so long and I haven't lost a single pound." I'm like, "But you're looking better. How do your pants fit?" "Well, they're really loose, but I haven't lost a damn pound." I'm like, okay, that could be because this is 5 pounds of fat, this is 5 pounds of muscle. And they don't think about that. The other thing I ask them is, what is your goal? Are you looking for endurance? Are you looking for fitness? Are you looking to change the look of your body? Those are different types of goals. If you're looking to change your body, then figure out what you want your body to look like, not what you want it to weigh. When you do that, then you can start looking at food choices to help with that. You can look at exercise based specifically for that zone. Obviously, if you're focused on your core in your center, chances are pretty good that a good portion of your body is going to follow along with you. But when you start looking at ways of getting that to look the way you want, and you start looking at exercises that are more designed towards that, you can find a journey that will swing you around to that. And of course, I've had people like, well, I just, I don't get into walking. I don't like going to the gym. I don't like to move. I'm sore and I'm tight and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. So out of curiosity, how much do you hate moving when it's time to, go out for the weekend and go fishing or go to the bar and do some dancing? And, do you show up at the bar and about halfway through that first beer, you're like, oh, I am so out of shape. I better go take a nap. And that's my favorite song. No, you're like, yeah, my song is on. Woohoo. 7 beers go down like water through a fish. And you're like, and I'm like, yeah, you had plenty of energy then. But getting up that extra half hour, whatever it takes to do a little extra workout to work that zone that you're not pleased with at the moment is where the challenge is. So how do you enjoy the journey? I talked about this a couple weeks ago or something, about a story of a gentleman who was way out of shape. And his brilliant idea was he would just show up at the gym for 5 minutes. Walk in, look around, look at some of the machines, and walk out. And of course, the gym rats are like, loser, oh, yeah, what the hell are you doing here? You're never going to make it. Oh, geez, 5 minutes ain't going to get you nothing. You got to get down and make some sweat, man. And they didn't understand what he was doing. He got to start to talk to some of the people there. He started getting curious. He'd ask the people that were there, what's that machine? What's that machine do? Okay, thanks. And then he'd go home. Next day, he'd show up again, 5 minutes. Hey, good to see you again. Out of curiosity, what's that machine do? And pretty soon, 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes. And that went on for a while. And finally, one day, he just went up and he goes, I want to try that machine once. Tried it a couple of times. Cool. And went home. Again, the gym rats are like, what a loser. You're never going to make it. He was figuring out how to enjoy the journey. And it didn't take long before he was looking forward to going to the gym. Not because he had to, not because it was a diet, not because he jumped on the scale again and realized he didn't lose a pound. That wasn't his goal. His goal was to figure out how the hell he was going to make it worth his while and enjoy doing something that he hadn't done in a long time. And it doesn't have to be weight loss. It can be anything. Reading. I'll admit, I fell out of love with reading. When I was a kid, holy cow, in 6th grade, there was a small group of us in my class, which our class was a small group, but I had a class of 30 kids from kindergarten through 6th grade. We knew each other. But there were like 5 or 6 of us who in 6th grade had already completed 10th grade English and math. And so they're like, they didn't have any of the advanced placement deals set in place at that time. So they were like, you know what? We can't let you go to 11th or 12th grade English. So here's a novel. Read Moby Dick. And not the Cliff Notes. I mean, coming home with, and I'd read it in a weekend. And now, for me to sit down, it better be a magazine that I'm interested in with lots of pictures. And not Playboy. But cars, guns, stuff like that. So I've got to figure out how to get back into enjoying the journey of reading. I've got some amazing books. Lillian sent me a copy of her Intuition Manifesto, and I've read parts of it because I'm interested in what she did. So I'm going to make that part of my journey of enjoying reading again. That any questions or input on that before I segue into the next thing that's on my list here? No? Okay. The next thing on my list that I'm going to flow right into is a cross between learning and hypnosis scripts, or scripts of any type. But the learning part that I'm going to touch on quick is allow yourself to learn even the same thing multiple times. Anytime you hear yourself thinking, I already know that, get rid of that. And here's why. And it took me a while. I'd heard it and I'd heard it and I'd heard it. But working with a client last week, it dawned on me. I got the download. Why learn the same damn thing multiple times? Here's why. How many things have you learned besides that since the last time you learned what you think you already know? And with that additional information, does that allow you to have a clearer understanding of what you already know? Because it's happened to me a number of times. Well, I already know that. And then they start teaching anyway, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening. But the stuff that I learned recently all of a sudden gave me that aha moment, like, oh, well, that would work with what I learned last week, even though I already knew this 5 years ago. I guess I didn't learn everything that I thought I needed to know about it. So remember, allow yourself to learn multiple times. Forget the whole concept of I already know it. And if you already know it and they teach you the exact same thing, you can validate that they said it correctly because you understood it verbatim, which means you remembered it verbatim. There, you validated your memories, your understanding, your knowledge. Poof, you're as smart as they are. Or smarter, I'm not sure. Which brings me to the concept of being smart enough to know stuff without stealing or repeating verbatim. In the hypnosis industry, there's a lot of people, especially when they start, that they hear that you can get books of hypnosis scripts. And they're like, oh, somebody wrote them down? The masters wrote down their secret sauce? Awesome! I need the book. And there's a red one that's about this big, and it has amazing stuff in it. And I've looked through it. There's also another one, an absolute guru in the industry, Richard Nangar, wrote an amazing book of scripts. And just like Elijah put, Please don't become a scriptnotist. Yes, study them, model them, learn from them, just don't read them to people. Yes, I have literally people, you can hear them when they're practicing and they're flipping the pages because they're reading. And a little analogy or metaphor, whatever, however you want to, I said, that's like the difference between karaoke and cover songs. Please do not karaoke a hypnosis script. Make it your own. It's kind of like that song Sound of Silence between Simon and Garfunkel versus the Disturbed version. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look them up. Same song, not the same song. The other thing that it brought up was the difference between baking and cooking. And if anybody knows anything about baking from scratch and making candies, if it asks for 3.4 ounces of something, you add 3.4 ounces of something and you cook it at exactly this temperature for this exact amount of time. It's science. But when you're cooking, you get to look at the recipe and go, well, that's a good foundation. Yeah, I can do that. And then I'm going to add some of this, and then I like it a little spicier, so I'm going to add some jalapenos, and then and you can always tell, the scientists and the candy makers are going, wait, what? Well, how much did you add? As much as I thought it needed. But how did you know how much it needed? Because it's kind of what I do. How about if we wait till the end to see if it worked? But you just added some more. How did you know I needed to add more? I smelled it. And it's kind of that way when you're working with clients, especially in hypnosis. There are times where I have said something, and as it's leaving my mouth, I'm going, no, too late. And it hits them, and they're like, how did you know I needed that? And I'm like, because that's what I do, because I'm a professional. Glad that worked. And sometimes it doesn't. But the only way you find out is to get out there and do it. Right back to my teaching from one of the very early triple T's. Who's the expert? If you're sitting there thinking that you can't do this because you're not the expert yet, right back to my story of the semi and the trailer that got wedged into the tunnel that was too small. And they had all the experts, the tow truck company and the highway patrolman and the mechanics, and everybody is sitting there looking at this truck going, we're just going to have to destroy this thing, or we're going to destroy the tunnel. We just, how are we going to we're going to have to get cutting torches. And a 9-year-old boy shows up and looks at it, and he's standing behind the guys and goes, well, why don't you just let the air out of the tires? Then it'll be shorter. And all the experts were like, that might work. Sure enough, it did. Now, can you imagine if that 9-year-old boy had enough time to think about, well, I'm not an expert, I should probably keep my mouth shut. Both the truck and the tunnel would have probably been destroyed. Back to some notes, because I'm not sure if they show up or if some people just listen to this by audio. Elijah put in, if you read a script, your client will be jealous of the rapport between you and your notes. Not only that, in our industry, you have to be ready to do this stuff anytime, anywhere for any reason. And if the proverbial, like David loves to say, the proverbial feces hits the rotating oscillator and you don't have your notes, may not be, yeah, hypnosis and free fall, baby Elijah. Right? And then Francine added, must admit, the course I did, certificate, diploma, and advanced diploma, only used scripts, and I used some, and you're right, it doesn't work. You miss clues. Yeah, because again, you're trying to figure out where the clues and the information fit into the script. And when you're dealing with humans in their natural environment, trying to get them to go by the script, it's like, no, could you change your problem a little bit? Because my script book, I don't have your problem in my script book, but the one that I'm really good at is, are you a smoker? You're not? Well, if you pretend you're a smoker, here on 28, I've got something that'll help you just like that. No, trust me, I've read it to about 4 or 5 different people, and they thought it was amazing. So, yes, how can we associate your problem with smoking? We'll be good. Yes, scripts are good for ideas, and that's why I own the books. It's just like I've had people give me a hard time because I did chef for hire for a while. I love cooking. And they're like, well, why do you have all these recipe books then? Because sometimes I get into a rut or I get bored and I want to try something different. And I look at the ingredients that I have available and I go, all right, that's a great looking roast there. Now I could do the same thing as I did for the last, 17 different roasts. But I'd like to try something different. So I'll pull out a recipe book and I'll go, nah. Oh, that looks good. Yeah, I can do something like that. Put the recipe book back in and get started. And that's when certain people are like, well, aren't you going to follow the recipe? I'm like, yeah. Well, but you put the book back. Well, I'm not going to follow it verbatim. That was their recipe. I'm going to make my own recipe. I got a good idea, and I've got all this stuff here. So, and like Jonathan brought up, or compare and mix 3 different recipes. I've been known to do that a number of times. Francine added, my mom is French, and I excel at French cuisine. If I'm in the mood, I love trying new stuff. Oh, that squirrel grabbed it. Look at this squirrel. An amazing rule for anybody that has to eat food. So if you don't have to eat food, this doesn't apply to you. But for those that have to eat food, especially picky eaters, and if you have picky family members, and if you have picky children, yes, I see hands flying up all over the place. This is especially for you. Biggest rule ever, you try everything at least 3 times. Why 3 times? Here's why. Bad cooks, bad ingredients. And if you've tried it 3, and this doesn't mean I took 3 bites of the same thing and I hated all 3 bites of the same, no, not off the same plate. I grabbed this bad piece of broccoli and I took a bite, and then I took another bite and I took another bite. All 3 broccoli sucks. No, that's not how it works. I eat everything if it tastes nice, from Francine. Well, here's the deal. One, as we age, our tastes change. back to the concept of bad cooks, bad ingredients. One of the things that I love to do with picky people is I'll go, okay, what's one of your favorite foods? Favorite all-time food? Francine, I'll play because you said that you've had a tendency to be a little selective in your culinary choices. What is one of your favorite foods? She's typing. Go ahead.
It's difficult to say because it depends who cooks it.
Ah, see, it depends who cooks it. But because you said it that way, what is it out of curiosity? Just pick one. Tell me something that you really enjoy. If you had to, you would, if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, proverbially, what would it be? For me, it's pizza.
I was going to say pizza.
Yeah. But have you ever had a pizza that was not so good? Like maybe they burnt the crust or maybe they undercooked it. Now, can you imagine if that was if it was that served to you that way, the first and the second time, would it have been your favorite food? Absolutely not. And I've had some pizzas, as much as I love pizza, there have been a couple of them where I'm like, no. But then on the third one, you get that good one where you're like, what? This is so good. What? I've had that happen on a number of items that the first two times were terrible. And the third time it showed up and I'm like, oh, 3 times, fine. One more time, this is it. If this one sucks, I'm done. I don't have to eat it anymore. And all of a sudden I take a bite and I start eating and I'm like, what the? Are you sure this is what you said it was? Because I hate this stuff. And I got my father on one of that. He just knew that he absolutely hated venison. Until one night, I had gotten this beautiful venison roast and I prepared it in a way that the old boys, around in backwoods Minnesota there, where they're making up the venison all the time and they got the good tricks to get the gaminess out of it. So I made it that way. And my pops ate 3/4 of that roast. I thought he was going to pop. And I know he had eaten the week before, he had eaten like the day before. It hadn't been a month since he'd eaten. So I knew. And we got done. He goes, man, that was a good beef roast. I went, well, what do you mean? No, that was a venison roast. No, I hate venison. That was not venison. I'd know venison. I'd have thrown up if that was venison. I'm like, the wrapper's still in the garbage. I can show you. Nope, they got it. I'm like, Dad, do you really think I would bring in a wrapper exactly sized for the roast that we ate, throw it in the trash, and then hide the beef roast wrapper? No. And clam chowder, Nancy noted because she knows the story. I made homemade clam chowder one time. And my father was doing the over-the-shoulder, what was that ingredient list, because he was pickier than a 5-year-old with an attitude. And, what, those potatoes? And clam chowder without the clams is essentially potato soup. He likes potato soup. Well, he went to go get some smokes before it was time to add the clams. You always want to add the clams last so they don't turn into erasers. And came back and I'd already had my share, and I might be boasting, but it turned out good. And Pops came home and the potato soup was done. And he had 3 bowls. He was halfway through his third bowl when a friend of mine and his female representative girlfriend show up. And I go, would you guys want some homemade clam chowder? Oh, clam chowder, oh, that stuff no gross. I'm like, shut up. Pops is in the kitchen enjoying it. I can't believe he likes clam chowder. After his third bowl, he was still taking a little out of the pot, and then came in, and you could tell one more bite, and I was afraid that he was either going to bump into something and explode, or he just needed to go lay down for a week or something. I was very proud of him. And then the female representative, I'm keeping it that way because there's so many things I want to call her, looked at my father and went, I can't believe you like clam chowder. That stuff is so gross. Oh my God. And my father looked at her, he goes, what do you, no, I hate clam chowder. This stuff is awful. She goes, well, that's what you were eating. I can't believe that. And my dad looks at me and he's like, what's she talking about? I said, well, you're going to have to admit now that you like clam chowder. And my father looks at me and goes, well, my taster must have been broke because I hate clam chowder. Really? You pounded down over 3 bowls? Your taster is not broke. I know it's not. I've watched you freak out about stupid stuff before. Admit it, you like clam chowder because you've never had it before. You just grew up on the farm knowing that if it didn't get served on the farm in mid-Minnesota in the 50s, it was not good for you. And we didn't get seafood in the farm in the 50s. I know, I asked Grandpa. There, now try it 2 more times. And that was a long squirrel. All right. And I noticed Lillian popped in halfway through going, clam chowder and pizza, what are we, I thought this was triple T. Yes, we have everything going on here. And huge shout out.
I was not aware until you brought it to our attention that clam chowder without the clams is potato soup. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so, never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, right? And you missed the part where I gave a shout out to you because it showed up, and I've even started reading part of it because I admitted that I had misplaced my love for reading. And so I'm working on ways to enjoy the journey back into enjoying reading. So that's going to be part of it. So thank you for sending that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And for anyone who has a challenge for reading, who wants to start, on that path, one thing that I used to always teach and train people who worked for and with me, if you aren't a reader, just put the book in the bathroom, so that every time you go to the bathroom, you just read these. The chapters are small. This book is only 123 pages long, so you can literally read it over the next 22 weeks. You can read a chapter at a time every time you go to the bathroom. As you sit idly taking care of your business, you're tickling 2 or 3 feet with one feather.
Put stuff in your mind while you empty your body.
You're literally, as Dr. David would say, you're getting rid of shit. Super high intensive stuff.
Right,
Again.
yes, right. Technology.
You're putting in good stuff and you're getting rid of the shit you don't need.
Exactly. And for those of you that are listening on audio, you're welcome. Actually, that's a good segue into another one that I one of the other things, because I make these little notes so that I can at least not be chasing squirrels all the time. And Rob I got the Kindle version. I like the convenience of my tablet. Yes. Although I've learned these will kill pests, flies, much safer than your Kindle will. Just a note.
Agreed.
Mentors. I've really been reflecting on how amazing my journey and my life has been for the stuff that I've learned with only going to college for 1 degree. I actually, yes, do have a college degree in hotel, restaurant, and property management, which I did for a number of years and got sick of babysitting adults and working while all my friends were playing and playing while all my friends were working. But I started contacting those people that have impacted my life just to let them know what kind of an effect they had on me. And one of them I was really driven in the last 2-3 weeks to contact, and that was the guy that introduced me to being a bartender. And he's since passed away, so I can now say that, yes, I was 17 when he allowed me to start tending bar, even though I was already 6'2", 6'3". And he taught me in such a way that I don't know that I would have enjoyed the journey nearly as much if I would have waited till 18 and got a job bartending at a corporate place, because he was like, okay, pour me a shot of something with a shot glass. And he made me do that 3 times. He goes, okay, now I want you to pour a shot in these 3 glasses without the shot glass. I don't want you using a shot glass anymore. Make sure that you practice to make sure, have a bottle of water at home. We'll send you an empty bottle with a pour spout and practice, but I want you to be good at free pouring, because I don't like the idea of going to a bar and seeing somebody going, and this is all you get. No more. Just because there will be some of our regulars that you can float a little extra on. There will also be some people that will require half shots, and they know that you're pouring them half shots and they're fine with that. You'll learn to gauge. There will also be certain people that, regulars, every now and then, not a lot, but you will have the ability to give them a free one because they have earned it. They are coming here, they are spending their money, they are helping build the environment, and I trust you to give them a free one when they have earned it. And because of me being able to bartend there, I ended up bartending out in Yellowstone in '88 for the big forest fire. That introduced me to a guy who grew up an hour away from me. I had to go all the way out to Yellowstone to meet a guy who grew up an hour away from me, who got me into a network marketing company where I met Dr. David, who got me into this so I can meet all you guys. And that's a true story. And that's just one tiny little thread of what bartending there allowed me to do. It introduced me to a lot of people. It got me into DJing, ironically, for 18 years because I was a bartender at the VFW. No, the American Legion. Oof. My people at home be like, you weren't at the VFW. No, I was at the American Legion and met Jim Karn, who had a DJ business, and I thought it was cool. And we got to know each other, and next thing I know, I'm his lead DJ, and all of a sudden, I'm DJing for 18 years because I was bartending when he was setting up for a wedding dance. So again, I look back, the guy that allowed me to start hanging out in his mechanic shop when I was 11 and taught me everything I know about mechanics and working on cars and things of that nature. So please contact those people that have taught you and shared with you and mentored you. And I had one of the coolest ones happen to me right in front of my mother. I went home probably about 10 years ago, and my mom and I went to a little coffee place, and we're sitting there and having a sandwich, and one of the waitresses that worked there came up and she goes, "Are you TJ the DJ?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "I've been hoping I would see you again. I heard you'd moved out of town. I just wanted to let you know, because of you, when you did one of our school dances, you said something to me, and it made me it made me decide that I would try out for acting through the school." She goes, "And I absolutely loved it. I've been doing all of the acting stuff, and I now am doing the plays at our local theater, and it was just because of what you told me." And my mom was sitting there and got to see it, and it still chokes me up, as you can see. Sometimes it doesn't take much to take somebody's trajectory and just give it that little nudge, and you don't know where it's going to go. 17-year-old bartender that ended up bing, 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 bing. And actually, bartending also got me to Europe for a year because I was a bar manager, and one of my clients was over here on a work exchange program from France. And ironically, I was 21, managing a bar, brought their sales up, their profit margin up big time. And the owner found out that, well, I had written up blueprints for an addition to the place because it was too small. And while he was looking over them, he goes, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 21. And a week later, he came back and he goes, "You're too young to be running a bar." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Look at the profit margins. Look at, yeah, well, but I can't have some kid running my bar." And gave me my last check. Yep, serious. And it almost, he made the mistake of doing it during happy hour. The place was packed, and I went over to the bar or to the table of some of my best clients. I was like, "I just got my final check." And they're like, "You what?" And the owner goes, "I want to buy you guys all around." They went, you can't buy shit. We're out of here." And the whole place cleaned out. He had no idea what I'd already built up. And so I'm like, I'm unemployed. I went home and thought about it for a bit, and I went, you know what, I'm going to go to Europe. And so I asked Emmanuel to give me the number of the place through the University of Minnesota, the office that sent him there. I called them up and I said, you know that program that you brought Emmanuel over on? Yeah, I want to go to Europe on that. Oh, but we only bring people here. We don't send them that way. I went, okay. So all you got to do is put the transmission in reverse, is what you're saying? You've got everything set up, so it shouldn't be that hard, right? Well, 2 months later, I was in Europe. I was the very first person through the University of Minnesota's work exchange program for agriculture that they turned around and sent people back. And last I heard, they're still doing it. All because a guy let me bartend at the age of 17. And I spent a year in Europe working and traveling and finding out that I don't fit in. Oh, thanks, Rob. Appreciate you showing up. But I found out that when I came back, I had grown too much to fit into the box that my hometown had built for me. And they tried to put me back in that box. And at some point, you know, the saying, you can never go home. Even if you move into the same town, it's not the same home. Hopefully, you've grown enough to where you don't fit in the box anymore. And that doesn't mean that you leave your family and your friends and all that stuff. But sometimes you do have to evaluate if they're helping you grow or if they're trying to shrink you back down to what you were before you left. And why? Because a lot of times it's uncomfortable for them to see you grow if they haven't. Especially if they haven't. Elijah posted, Don Juan said it to Carlos Castaneda, you can never go home. Man, what a journey it's been. Yeah, actually, when I came back from Europe, I told my mother, I said, this is not a suggestion, and I'm not saying it, I don't want it to happen. I said, but if I died right now, I've already lived so much. And my mom's like, honey, you've already lived more than some of the grandparents in this town. And that was in 1990. And like I said before, when I told Mom that I was getting a cert and I was going to be a professional hypnotist, and she goes, awesome. I'm like, yeah, and that's profession number 28. She's like, yep. I'm like, no, 28. She goes, sweetheart, your life has never been a straight line. Bing, 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 ding, ding, pum, 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 ding, pum, pum, shoo. And that goes right back to the mentors. Because I had so many people pour into me for free. Because I was curious and respectful and just straight up wanted to learn. And we're down to 6 minutes. I've got two things left. One that I really want to get, and that's a reply for anybody that is especially in management, but you don't have to be. If you're one of those people that people like to bring problems to, and if you're one of those people that like to bring problems to people, this can be for you as well. And that's when somebody brings you a problem or an issue, the reply is, Thanks. I appreciate you bringing that problem. So what 3 solutions have you already come up with so that we're not duplicating efforts? In that simple reply, you've acknowledged them for finding the issue, trusting their ability to bring it and present it to you. But then you've also let them know that they have the freedom to think of solutions on their own and bring them with as well. Don't just bring me problems. Here's a problem, fix it. Here's a problem, fix it. All right, thanks for bringing the problem. What 3 solutions have you come up with already so that we're not duplicating efforts? I taught this to my wife when we very first met, and she was a city manager. And she said the first 2 times that she used it, there was, 80-20 rule. There's always a couple of people in an organization that love to find the issues, and they love to bring the issues to you right now. Let's see what you can do. Fix this for me. And as soon as she said, okay, so appreciate that. So what 3 solutions have you already come up with so we're not duplicating efforts? And she said the look on their faces, priceless. Like, what? What? And it doesn't mean that you get to implement the solutions on your own. I'm the manager, I'm responsible, but I would prefer that you bring solutions with the problem and go, I found this problem, here's 3 things that I came up with. Now, either I can pick one of the solutions, bam, it's fixed, you get the credit, we're rolling. Or I look at the 3 solutions and go, okay, I like those solutions, I'm gonna contact a few other people and run it by them, and we're gonna see what we come up with. It may not be one of the 3 solutions, but at least you've invested some time. You've given me a little more time, some options to think over, so I don't have to stop in the middle. I don't have to stop my working machine to take this new issue. And you can do the same thing with kids, because those of you that have kids or know people that have kids, you're running a corporation. If you've raised kids, have you ever had one of them come up with you with a problem? Even when you were sleeping, or when you were on vacation, or when they were supposed to be sleeping, they brought you a problem. Thanks for the problem. What are the 3 solutions you come up with already so we're not duplicating efforts? What? So, wow, that one quick. Any questions on that input, feedback? While I pull up this one quote that I wasn't able to get to last time.
Can I share sometimes our...
Yes, please.
I want to share a personal experience. Since you brought up kids, I had this one time when my daughter was probably about maybe 18, 19 months old. And it was late at night, and she started crying. And so I went into her room, and she was crying, and I was trying to see, I kept the lights off, and I'm like, what's wrong? And I told her, what's wrong, Christelle? What's wrong? And she's like, monster, there's a monster in the house, there's a monster. And I was like, monster? I go, there's no monster in the house. She's like, yeah. And she kept on pointing to the hallway that there was a monster. And I said, what is this thing that she's perceiving? I didn't hear anything that sounded like a monster to me, but she was clearly hearing a monster. So as I walked into the hallway, then from pointing down the hallway, because her room was across from our master bedroom, once I went into the hallway, then she pointed into my master bedroom. There's a monster in there, monster. So I walked into my master bedroom, and of course my then husband was, sleeping there, and he was going. And so I looked at her and I'm like, that's not a monster, Christelle, that's Daddy. And so then I walked up right next to his side of the bed, next to his pillow. I go, you see, it's not a monster, it's just Daddy snoring. So she stopped dead in her tracks. She goes, not a monster, it's just Daddy sleeping. I said, yeah, it's not a monster, it's just Daddy sleeping. So she just looked at him and she heard him going. And then she was fine. So then, we went to the bathroom, we wiped her face down clean, and then I put her to bed. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys because I think oftentimes we have.
Do you hate it when the story gets cut off right at the good part?
Right at the climax.
You're like, "Eh."
Yes, it's frozen.
That's when she fast forwarded, realized that her husband was going to soon become her ex-husband, taught her daughter how to hit him with a frying pan to quiet him up. Sweetheart, if your husband ever does this, just take a pillow. He'll eventually be quiet. For those of you that was a joke. I know in this day and age, I have to clarify that was a joke. Bad joke, whatever. Just relax. Nobody was killed in the process of telling this joke. Although I know there's probably a few people going, I wonder how I can get away with that. If she's 5, they can't prosecute. Okay, enough of that. That goes, she's back. Yes, you have to complete the story because you got right to the good part and we're all like, and then you froze. It was like, and then she.
You're a great imitation. Yeah, so my internet, I guess, must have got knocked off because I got disconnected. But yeah, so the root of what I was trying to share is that sometimes you really sit down with what you perceive to be a much bigger problem. And when you get to the root of it, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I thought this was a much bigger deal. I thought this was like this huge problem. And when you get down to the nitty gritty of it and you see what the source is, you're like, either you find that there's really nothing for you to do because it was a perceived problem that's not a problem, or it's a very tiny thing that you need to do to fix it.
Yes.
That's it.
And we're into the second hour, and that segues right into something I wanted to talk about, but I want to respect the format that I've put up. So if you guys have something else you want to talk about, this is your time. Otherwise, last weekend I was trying to get to moral hazard, and what Lillian said fits kind of in as a segue. Is it okay if I take in a little of your time? Okay. Here's another Jordan Peterson. Love the dude. Would love to meet him sometime, spend some time with him. That would be phenomenal. So Jordan, if you're listening, hit me up. My people, your people. Let's talk. And what he said was, if you're doing something, going down a path, and you realize it's too hard or it's not for you, how do you distinguish that from just giving up? That's a moral hazard, because it's inappropriate to keep going down a path that you know is wrong. But it's also inappropriate to use that rationalization as an excuse. So the answer should be that you can change courses as long as the next thing you do is equally or more difficult. I'm going to read it one more time because I listened to it about 12 times before I wrote this down. So again, if you're doing something, going down a path, and you realize it's too hard or it's just not for you, how do you distinguish that from just giving up? That's a moral hazard right there. because it's inappropriate to keep going down a path that you know is wrong. But it's also inappropriate to use that rationalization as an excuse. So the answer should be that you can change course as long as the next thing that you do is equally or more difficult.
So I would love to chime in here because I think that we all go through these moral hazards, these dilemmas where we think it's like, wait a minute, you know, am I on the right path, or is this supposed to be where I take a new course correction? And so you don't, you know, we all know that if you quit, then you inherently fail when you quit and you don't continue on. But if you take that momentary failure and you figure out from there where to go, then that's not failure, then that's progress, because now you're moving in the right direction. And kind of segueing to what you said right before, where you said that your mother said that you had lived more lives than a lot of the elderly in your community, and that, you know, you were now on your 28th career, and you really have done what Casey Neistat has a video where he talks about the Tarzan method, where you're Tarzan when you start off your career as a young person, and whether you started, you know, in high school or after high school or after college, the point is you're really like Tarzan. You're reaching out, grabbing a vine, and from this perspective, you notice this vine over here, and so then you leap over here to this other vine, and never has anyone in the history of man ever made a straight arrow all the way down from point A to point B to be a mega success. You know, you're zigzagging your way from one vine to the other, swinging back. Sometimes the swings are little. Other times it's like, whoa, I don't even know if I'm going to make it to that vine to grab that vine, but I know that I can't stay here. And so I know I need to go in that direction. And so you'll go, whoa, take a big leap. And then other times you just take a little, it's like, oh, this was easy to grab this vine. It was like barely even a leap. You just hop onto that vine and you continue to zigzag your way all the way really to success, because there is no failure. Those course corrections, those things that were obstacles that in the moment felt like setbacks, were really setups to get you to go where you're supposed to go. And so I think that this moral hazard issue, because, you know, there are times where things are really, really, really hard, whether it's in your business life, maybe you're at a fork in the road for your business, maybe you have like this really horrendous, gruesome medical diagnosis where you're like, wow, I knew that I had some symptoms and stuff, but I never thought that it was this dire. And now you're like, they're telling you need to start chemo, or you need a surgery this Friday, or, you know, whatnot. Or maybe it's something in your relationship, but we've all had that, right? And so, you know, what do you do? And that's a moral hazard. And I think what Jordan Peterson said, that this moral hazard is that the key is that you know is wrong. So if you know, and I talk about this in the Intuition Manifesto, because a lot of people are like, they're like, what do I do? What do I do? You know, I don't know. I know I need to do something, but I don't know what to do. And, you know, the theme of this book is to tell you to turn to your intuition, to your inner voice, to that guidance that you have within, because when you know that where you are is wrong, you don't need a parent, a colleague, a best friend, a rabbi, a priest, a minister. You don't need anybody to tell you that what you're doing is wrong. You already know that it's wrong. Now the question is, it's like, okay, but where do I go from here? And so if you can quiet yourself down and get in your right mind and pay attention to that not so small voice, but it will become more obvious the more you do it. And it's like, then you'll know, okay, well, I know that that's the target that I'm trying to hit, and I don't know all the steps in between, but I have a sense that maybe doesn't make sense, you know, from a traditional standpoint, but I feel an impulse that I need to go in this direction. And so that's why, yeah.
And Elijah's got his hand raised all the way from the UK. Speak to us, my brother.
Yo, how's it going?
Going well.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, just thinking while Lillian was speaking there, I think want to kind of bring it a little bit towards judging and judgment of what is wrong and what is right and what is good, what is bad. In order to make such a judgment, you have to be looking at a particular moment in time. So let's say for example, when I was 21, like the most horrible thing in the world that could have happened to me, right? And if I think about that thing that happened and I tell you that it was the most horrible thing, what it means in essence is that I've taken and isolated that moment in time from then to then, or the other way, right, was the most horrible thing. But if I expand the boundaries of what the time constraint that I'm judging, and I look at it over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, right? I can turn around and tell you that actually that thing set me on a path that turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened, like way beyond what I could have imagined. So much more than I even thought I wanted, right? Back then. And so just be mindful when you're judging something that, it's good, bad, right, wrong, whatever, right? It's kind of important because you can't tell this stuff going forwards. You might feel shitty now. That's not a suggestion. You feel great. You guys all feel great, right? Okay. But like, even if one were to feel shitty in the moment, you can't connect the dots going forwards. You can only connect them when you look back afterwards. So, keep an open mind. And I'm sure that even if it's a low point, every trough is followed by a peak, right? So, it's gonna have things have a way of working out. So, that's what I want to say. People who, I know it was a little bit off the subject, but, I noticed that sometimes people give themselves a hard time with things like that. So,
Well,
yeah.
and what you brought up has been prevalent in my life many times. I got fired from a bar manager position and ended up in Europe for a year. I lost my property in Minnesota, ended up in California for 14 years, where I met Dr. David, where I met all of you guys. And even Fran commented here, some of the decisions I've made for the wrong reasons have turned out to bring out the best results. Yeah, been there, done that. And back to Jordan Peterson again, where he goes, if you're not sure what to do something, anything. Because in doing so, you may be going down that path and halfway down the path go, this ain't for me. I should be over there. But you would never have had that perspective from back there where you were standing trying to figure out what to do. If you would have had that perspective, you would have went down that path instead of the one you're on. Which also ties back right to what I was teaching right in the beginning of learning multiple times. You have a completely different perspective today over what's being taught to you, because you've gained so many different things along the voyage. Any other inputs or things that people would like to share or add or ask the panel about?
I was just going to say another thing that I talk about, for anyone who knows me, and I mentioned it also in the book, it's like, it's not, I always say, don't wait, create. Because if you are waiting, you're stuck. And people who complain about being stuck, in my opinion, over the years, as I've had businesses and as I've guided people through different, medical circumstances and so forth, oftentimes that stuck feeling is just a refusal to make a choice in any direction. And so if you stop waiting and you start creating, there's no such thing as, even a thing that you think is a mistake. Like I said, you may perceive it as a setback, but it's a setup. And I like to tell people to watch. There's a movie. I don't know if you guys have read the book, The Celestine Prophecies by James Redfield, but it was also turned into a movie. So if you don't have time to read the book or don't want to read the book, just go ahead and watch the movie. And there's a particular scene where there was a girl named Marjorie that had been kidnapped. And so the character in the film, actually has to set out to find her. And he's in Peru, in a foreign country that he's not familiar with, that he's doesn't have his bearings. And so a priest had told him that, that as there were forks in the road, and as he had experiences where he didn't know which way to go, that the divine would make it very clear which way to go, and that the path of light or the path of darkness would be before him, and he could take a step in the direction where he was supposed to go and to trust it. So sure enough, there's a part in the movie where he literally he's on his motorcycle and he's in a fork in the road. And interestingly enough, and as humans, we always discount stuff, right? So there's a fork in the road, and you see the sun is shining on the road that goes to the right. And then you look at the path on the left, and the road is dark. And so he knew, on the heels of having that conversation with that priest, he knew to pay attention and to go to where the light was. So he took the path on the right. And I can't tell you how many times we overthink things, and in real life we think, well, that was just in a movie. And oh, that's not really how life works. Or is it? And I think oftentimes we rationalize, which is rationing out lies to ourselves and talking ourselves out of what we know is the direction we should go, and we discount it. And then of course things, instead of you being in that place of flow where things now quantum leap, you're like, okay, you chose the more difficult path. You're still going to get there, but you're going to have to overcome some of these obstacles and pay attention the next time the decision, when you have the light is actually before you as opposed to the darkness. Take the easier path, because either way you're going to get there. It's just that with one, you're going to have to, shake off the dirt off of your legs and, the raspberries and potentially broken bones. And you're going to have to go through that healing before you can move on, quite literally.
And Francine, you got your hand up.
Yes. You were talking about learning things multiple times, and how often setbacks are setups. Many know in here I was diagnosed with a brain injury, and that got me into looking how I can get unstuck, because I felt stuck at the time. And I came across David's course, TJ, when you came to Australia. I booked it the week before. I'm not sure you knew about this. I actually found the course the week before it actually happened.
Wow.
And because I decided, that's it. What can I do to get better? That was my thinking behind. I did the course and I felt so much better, and things really started moving around. And then, of course, a couple of years later, it was covered, and then I had the court case. So I did get something out of the court case. However, it wasn't what I was hoping. And then I got the opportunity to do the course again. And it's just opened my mind on a totally different level this time. And you need to keep on moving. It doesn't matter which way it goes. Just try not be stagnant, because that's really counterproductive. And I did that. I became stagnant after the court case, and I seemed to regress back to previous things. And then I didn't realize that the reason why this actually happens both times is that so I can learn more. Looking back, it's actually quite exciting, and that's what I want to say.
Awesome. I'm so proud of you, knowing a few things about your journey that others may not. And you've come a very long way. And on top of that, as somebody who has traveled to a different country and being a foreigner in a foreign land, wow. I ain't gonna lie, the reason I left Europe was because we got involved with one of our little petty wars, and I was like, you know, I don't know if I want to be a foreigner in a foreign land when my country is at war with somebody. So I came home, and of course it didn't last long, but that wasn't the point. You know, I had the option of going home. I was there all by myself. No, I was single, no kids, easy traveling, and I'd been gone for a year. But it also, in traveling, I dealt with a lot of college kids. When I was in San Diego with my business, I had 72 rental properties that I was taking care of at the end. About 80% of them were college rental homes. So I got to meet a lot of our bright, educated, upcoming superstars. That was an adventure in itself. But if you ever want to practice, get really good at NLP and reframes and talking points, spend some time around a college campus, because they know everything. I know, I've talked to hundreds of them, but they didn't know that I'd studied NLP and had always been really good at reframes, and actually had experienced life beyond the dorm room. And they thought they wanted to argue with me and didn't realize they were bringing a plastic butter knife to a howitzer fight. So I was like, all right, bring it on. Let's have fun. This should be fun. I know I'm going to probably have to send you to your safe spot, but whatever. It's an experience. I considered myself part of their learning experience, and it was fun. But enough about that. Any other things that you guys would like to touch on, or questions about? Or Fran's got her hand up.
Being the expert on reframing, why not tell us more about reframing, please?
Oh, the reframe of the reframe. One of the best definitions that I've heard of a proper reframe is when somebody looks at you and goes, oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, right. When they bring you a certain view, and you can make them look at it in a completely different way and change their mind, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, I never thought of it that way. Or, yeah, you're right. And part of it is going back with building rapport and asking questions. If you've listened to any of these triple T's, you will constantly hear me talking about, please, please, please get good at asking questions. If you do nothing else, get really, really good at asking questions. Back to the quote of Abraham Lincoln, and hopefully I get it right this time. I'm going to have to write it down, where he said, if I had 4 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 2 hours sharpening the axe. And it was his metaphor of, I would ask questions before I came up with the solution. In doing so, the better you get at asking questions. Just like on Google or anytime you're doing these online searches, you can ask the same question 4 different ways and get 4 different levels of answers. And sometimes you just switch the words around, sometimes you change, and it's all the same question. Or is it? And Fran put in there, when I get good at asking questions, sometimes the other person reframes me. And in doing so, you notice how it all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, you're right. That was a good reframe. And trust me, I've had people reframe me, and I've acknowledged them on it. I was like, wow, that was a really good reframe. Thank you. And sometimes it can be as simple as being around people that have to see the negative in something. And you go, yeah, but look at this good side. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, there is that too. Yeah. And if I had to choose between the two, it's kind of like the saying, you can either be angry that rose bushes have thorns, or you can be happy that thorn bushes have roses, because it's the same plant. Now that's a reframe. And Elijah, you raised your hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to share one because I went through, especially towards the back end of last year, I went through a pretty tough time. And one of the things was I was kind of beating myself up about feeling bad, because it was like this, oh, you're this hypnotist and everybody says you're so good at it. And, you know, like I should know better. So I was kind of being upset that I was upset. Do you know what I mean? Right?
Yes.
And it wasn't until I had a good friend of mine just looked at me once. He went, yeah, but dude, that's like saying a doctor can't catch the flu. And it just like completely just my problem in like 2 seconds, you know? And it's just, it was an awesome reframe. So, you know, even really simple stuff, just to give an alternative perspective. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that one. That was one of the ones that someone did on me. And I thought it was like, you know, in that moment, you're like, dude, you could totally be a hypnotist. You know what I mean?
Well, and I don't know, I guess for some people it comes a little easier than others. And I'm not sure where the flow comes from. You know, like another great one I had was, you know, somebody was like, well, you know, they told me I can't do this. And I said, so basically they judged you because you're a fish that can't climb a tree like a monkey, but you're really good at swimming. And now you can tell the monkey, well, why don't you come down and spend time in my world, and we'll just swim to the bottom of the lake for a couple of years. We all have our talents, and so many people are being judged or being hard on themselves because they can't do what that person can do. Well, he's a fish, you're a monkey. He can't do what you can do. Lenora had a hand up.
Hi guys. I've also thought about, you know, to come back to the fact that we are human. I know Elijah mentioned he went through some things, and Francine and you guys, your vulnerability is absolutely incredible, and we've all shared our own experiences, but at the same time, we are human. And I know, that's how I feel. Trust me. Then there are also things that, you know, whatever your perception is about the universe or God, there's other things going on in play. And just like you have absolutely no idea which cells are dying right now. You have no idea which cells are growing. It's none of your business. There are other things beyond your control, beyond your perception, that this is how it's coming into you. It's not your business to know everything, but hang on. And just to recognize and to even look at yourself and say, you know what, I am human. I do go through bad days too. I'll be okay. I know that there's light on the other side, whatever that might be, that other good moment, that next good day, that next laugh, something else will be there. So I know we tend to be a little bit hard on ourselves, given the fact that we are human, but at the same time, we are human and we don't know everything that's in play. So that's just my thoughts on that one.
Of course, you realize now that you just caused a whole bunch of control freaks' heads to just explode. They're like, ah!
Welcome to my party.
What do you mean? Yes. I love the fact that you think you are in control. And sometimes
Good illusion, isn't it?
Sometimes you just have to let people think they're in control. It's like, yeah, you're in control.
Yeah.
But we're going this way.
Yeah, I had this thought the other day that what if like super advanced aliens came to Earth and then they went straight under the sea because most of the Earth is water, and then they studied the fish for a little while and decided that there was no intelligence here and left.
See? They talked to the trees, and the trees told them, look out for those things that talk, because they'll cut us down and they turn us into lumber and sit on us. And Lillian added, those who seek to control are controlled and enslaved by that energy to control. There's a fine loop. Right?
And there's a wonderful skill of getting the leaders or leading the leaders from behind. We have the skills to do that as well. You don't have to be up front.
If anybody who watched Doctor Strange towards the latter part of the movie, if you remember, there's a part where Doctor Strange gets into this feedback loop with Dormammu, where Dormammu was so obsessed with, doing all this evil to the world and to destroy and to just, it's this negative, evil, energetic power. And Doctor Strange decided, it's like, okay, well, he knew that in this mirror energy that he placed there, that he could be in this loop. It would be at, for infinity, but at least he would save the world and keep Dormammu from controlling the earth and trying to destroy it. So he's like, if that's the price that I have to pay, then it's like, I'll die 1,000 deaths, for infinity, but at least Dormammu is not able to control the world and harm it. And so you see that, and then there comes a point in time where the evil force realizes what's going on. It thought that it was in control, and then it realized, it was so obsessed with this thing to control, realizing that it was a futile experience. It was really an interesting dynamic and paradox to see, but I think it spoke volumes to me as a human, seeing the different interactions that we have with others and realizing that, there are times where you just have to let it go and not worry about all the people, places, and things around you, and just be in your truest, most open-hearted place and just, follow your path.
And Elijah, you had a comment?
Oh, I was just going to make a joke. Spoiler alert. Yeah. I think it's true. It's absolutely true. You can totally, someone who's obsessed with victory, you can totally defeat them by getting a stalemate.
Yeah.
So.
Now, while she was saying that, a squirrel ran across the street, and I grabbed it and looked at it, and it was kind of funny. And it was basically, is there anybody here that has no idea what the movie Groundhog Day is about?
I only watched it a few months ago. So.
Recap it for us, because I don't remember.
Well, it's a brilliant movie, and it's hilarious. I like that. Lenore like, no.
It's awful.
It's about a guy that goes to do news coverage for
Punxsutawney.
Punxsutawney Phil, and all of a sudden the day ends up on a cyclical loop, and he's the only one that isn't part of the loop. He just has to relive this day over and over and over. Every morning he wakes up and the same day has started. And he tries to fight it, and finally he's just like, fine, I got to do something with this day. He knows everything that's going to happen in that town that day, like everything. So he starts saving people from that are going to trip or step into this big water puddle, and he's able to stop this and help this. And then he's like, screw it, I might as well learn how to play piano. So he starts taking piano lessons with this lady, except he's showing up. It's the exact same day for her, but every time he shows up now, he's at a different level. And pretty soon he's taking piano lessons from her at level 68, even though they just met. She taught him everything. And what popped in my head when Lillian was talking about that thing was, if you realized that you were in the middle of Groundhog Day, what would you do with your day, knowing that the world wasn't going to advance more than 24 hours? You were going to be over and over and over that same day. And like the guy there decided, I'm going to learn how to play piano. Well, if you're going to live the same day over and over for a year, and you could become a master at playing piano because you showed up for the same lesson, you had nothing better to do, you can't leave town, what would you do with your time? And you can't, I just wondered, you would only get 24 hours to try and build something physical. So I couldn't, I don't know what I'd do, because I couldn't go out and I could fix somebody's water leak 72,000 times in a row. But you get to keep the knowledge.
Get really good at it.
What's that?
I said you'd get really good at it after 72.
I'd be damn good at it. It'd be like, hey, stop. We got a leak right here. I got all the parts. We're good to go. I'm out of here. And they'd be like, where did that masked man come from?
Do you know what I would do, TJ? I would finish people's sentences and really freak them out.
Well, it's kind of like the waitress that was about to drop a plate, and he just walks by and he grabs it and he sets it down on the table, and she's like, how did you do that? But I love the fact that he decided, screw it, I might as well learn something, and decided to learn how to play piano. And I'm like, man, if I had that ability with my quest for, curiosity, that could be a fun, dangerous place to play. I would right back to the very first thing, I'd learn how to enjoy the journey. If you're stuck on a 24-hour loop of the same thing, how would you enjoy the journey? Lenora.
You could also, as you were saying that, it dawned on me probably why I don't care for the movie. If you're repeating the same annoying things, like the same annoying thoughts over and over again, what else could you do? How could you shift it?
Yeah.
Just like the thoughts inside our heads.
Well, Dr. David says, I don't remember who it is that he said that always says that in order for you to learn more effectively and to be more intelligent, that you have to, be fun and playful about it. And so the more you can change up your routine and be more fun and playful about it and have your pieces of chocolate, so you have that oxytocin bath over the brain, that the more intelligent you're going to be, the easier you're going to learn it, the easier you're going to retain it and recall it.
It also means like if you're really good at repeating the same thought over and over again, it also means that once you find the correct thought or one that's appropriate for you, that you're gonna go miles and miles and miles just off a tiny bit of gas. Do you know what I mean? Because you'll be able to repeat the good one just as often and just as well and just as strongly, and use the fuel efficiently on the other side of the equation, right? Like when you move the negative to the other side of the equals, it becomes positive, right?
Exactly. Which again is why I love this form, that having you guys here, because man, the stuff that just pops up out of nowhere. I love these talking points. And we got 20 minutes left on the Tiki Talk. Anything else anybody would like to chit chat about or ask anybody on the forum about, or like Holly's
I have a question.
question? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see, do you have, lately I've been having more and more people that are requesting regression therapies and going back, in the state of hypnosis so that they can go back to either past experiences in their lifetime, but not necessarily limited to their lifetime, to go, as far back. And I always tell people, it's like, well, when you're doing that type of time travel, you can go backwards, but I've also had people that have gone forward. So, but I just wanted to kind of get put my finger on the pulse of what your experience has been with that. And if you have any tips that you would like to share with us about that. And Elijah looks like he's got something exciting to say, so I'm all ears.
I nominate Fran to answer this question.
All right, go for it.
Holy is.
I like how that subject had everybody bouncing.
Sorry, has Elijah got a question, or are you wanting me to respond to
No,
that?
I nominate you to answer Lillian's question.
Oh, all right. Oh, I love the past life, transgenerational, alternate lifetime. I haven't done a lot of future work, but I mean, it's whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter, because it's a wonderful metaphor to work with. It's dissociated from the problem, so you can actually fix the problem in another time and place so easily, and you just tell the client that it's fixed back there and that's flowing through to you now, and miraculously it does. So I have a lot of fun playing with that, and when I'm working with a client, very often they just can't get it in this lifetime, so we look for where else it came from. And TJ's got huge experience with this sort of thing of time jumping. He does it a bit differently to me, but it all works. It's wonderful. And at its lowest level, it's a wonderful metaphor. Is that enough, Elijah?
No, never enough, Fran. Give us more. No, I'm joking.
I'll give TJ a go, then I'll come back.
Both TJ and Elijah, please share. Open the mouse.
Well, what I've been using a lot more lately is once I have them identify the energy of where the issue or whatever they perceive to be the issue is located, I'll have them describe it to get them associated with the energy. And now I throw in there, now if we could carbon date the energy that's there, just like they do with dinosaur bones, I'm curious, how old might this energy be? Is it in this lifetime, or is it possibly even older. How old might this energy be? That is when I finally started getting people going, oh, it's like 400 years old. I'm like, 400 years old. And now that you realize that this issue that you've been dealing with, that you think is supremely just yours, now that you realize it's 400 years old, I want you to forgive yourself for not having complete control over it. Because it wasn't yours in the beginning. You're the first one who recognized it as such, and you're the one that can fix it for all the future generations and even possibly 7 generations back. And then we start looking for solutions. And I do my SAND protocol, and I have them remove the lessons and put it in their lesson box and send a copy of the lessons back to just before the issue arose. And now they have all the answers, all the lessons, all the energies they need to dispel that energy that had been around for all those years. And poof.
Can I butt in again?
Please,
And
yes. That's
say
what
that
this is about.
one of the ways that I love to do the regression or past life stuff or alternative life stuff or transgenerational is I give the client the power, the director's cut power, that they can change a tragedy into a comedy. They can do anything. They can go back as many generations as they like to change the story. And the power of changing the story, it really does flow through your whole body, through your whole attitudes. It's a fabulous thing. And particularly with the transgenerational stuff, when you're dealing with stuff that's either directly related to your family or sort of next to related, a strong influence in the family, the Tad James style timeline with a little bit of tweaking works very well for the other person. And you can actually travel back down the different avenues of the relatives and find that point, and as a surrogate for them, actually do that work for them back then, and then bring the changes all through the timelines back to now. It's very powerful.
Yeah,
So,
it's almost like an Inception, you know, like the Inception movie where you have a dream within a dream within a dream. So you can kind of hypnotize someone and have them go back and then have them hypnotize someone, goes into that person's mind, which then hypnotizes someone that goes into that person's mind. And then, do you know what I mean? It becomes a whole, you just have to keep track of how many loops you opened and make sure you close them all in reverse order, you know? I do regression in a much more simple and lazy way. It's been a while since I did like an induction on someone or like, you know, guided someone into trance. Most of the time I ask trancy questions rather than like, you know, close your eyes, take a deep breath and all that. Like I like to be able to do it in uptime because then you can use it anywhere. So for me, it's much more like I probably would have already explained to the person that, you know, if it feels like you're making it up, just keep going with your instinct and that kind of thing, even if it doesn't seem real. So I'd probably ask something like about the feeling or the bad feeling or whatever the challenge is that they're going through. And then I'd ask a simple question like, can you think about a much earlier time when you felt this way? And it just transports them straight back. You know, it's like the simplest regression you can do. I did do David's regression course and it's fantastic. It was the first ever hypnosis training I did back in 2015. And it was really good. And for a while, it was like my go-to thing. Like I'll just regress everything. Oh, I bite my nails, regression. Oh yeah, oh, I got chronic headaches, regression. And then I realized it's just like bringing like the opposite of, you know, it's like bringing a sledgehammer to every problem. You know what I mean? And just like, and it's just not necessary. Nowadays, for me, regression is very much like a last ditch effort. You know, I hardly ever use it. Hardly ever use it. Yeah, that's just my take on it. I think, you see, more recently, and specifically like the last 2 years, I've realized that, you know, like the opposite ends are the same. So like yin and yang, or at the end of day, you find night, and at the end of night, you find day, and that kind of thing. So even if you were to go back and regress to the very first beginning point, wouldn't that be the same as forever staying in now? It's the opposite, but it still gets you to the same place. So I do much more work in now, and I keep people in now, and that for me works much better, just for my style and what I'm comfortable with and what I find works with people. So yeah, just kind of stay in now.
That's also a beautiful reframe to go back to the question from earlier. Nice reframe, brother.
Don't tell them what I'm doing. It's better when people don't know. It's not. It's better when they do know.
Oh no, they're gonna see the tricks.
You're not going to see the tricks.
No.
Because even here's the thing, right? You can't see him if I'm not doing them. So
yeah, right.
Right. So there you go.
If you don't tell a lie, you don't have to remember what you said.
Right.
And we're always suspicious that you're doing them, and because we think you're doing them, they also work even when you aren't.
That was a crazy mind spin. Wait, say it again. Say it again. That negative at the end.
I'm not sure if I can, but that we all think that you're doing them, so they work even when you aren't doing them.
Yeah, because sometimes the things that can make sense don't, and other things that can not make sense will when they shouldn't.
Exactly.
And the absolute funniest part about that, you guys have no idea how many times Dr. David has been accused of doing something or saying something because people know that he knows how to say something, so he must have said something while he was talking about something, and that's why they did the something that they thought they heard him tell them to do them. And that's why we record everything, because I'm like, no, I was there. No, he didn't say that. No, really, he said it, but he didn't say it. But I know he said it when he didn't say it, because that's.
But then you just argue that all their experience is internal, right? It's like you might think that you're hearing my words right now through your ears. But really what you're hearing is vibrations through your speakers being detected by your ears and then interpreted through your brain. Or even if I were to come up to you and put my hand on your shoulder, you might think that you're feeling my hand on your shoulder, but actually it's a sensation within yourself, is it not? and then there's just like nowhere to go, you know? There's nowhere for them to go at that point. It's just like...
Yeah, and how does one prove that the entire time that Dr. David was speaking, that at some point in time that you didn't wander off on a tangent, left to even though your body was allegedly there and you were allegedly looking at him, but your mind was really elsewhere. So now you're thinking that he said this, where it's like, no, that was your thoughts, thinking about something else, and then before you know it, you bring yourself back and you're listening again. There's no way. I mean, no one can prove that.
Or you just picked up on the energy of the person walking by in the hallway who was thinking about a steak, and you're like, I know he made me think of a steak, and you don't. Yes, the deeper you get into the matrix of is what is, the less you get surprised about stuff that happens.
So they say, right? They say all hypnosis is self-hypnosis.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Welcome to our world. Thank you for showing up. We've got 6 minutes left. Is there any other fun?
I gotta run. I gotta be at the post office before they close. But thank you, you guys. This is always a wonderful mastermind.
Bye.
And I'll take away a few points that are just fantastic. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you
Yeah.
for showing up and all that you share as well. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, TJ.
Okay, kids. One bright day in the middle of the night, two dead boys got up to fight. Back to back they faced each other, drew their swords and shot another. Deaf policeman heard the noise, came and shot the two dead boys. If you don't believe this lie is true, ask the blind man. He saw it too.
That's right.
I learned that backwards rhyme in elementary school. And it's still like, that describes a lot of how I grew up sometimes. You're like, I thought this was left, but it was right when it was upside down. So there you have it. Down to the last 5 minutes. Any other fun things that we can share, add, discuss, comments, memories of past triple T's that impacted you or anything?
Anybody want to come out to Wyoming?
Wyoming! Yes.
I've never been there. I'd love to go to Wyoming.
We're
Yes.
considered the cowboy state.
What about cowgirls? Do we have cowgirls as well?
Yes, we have cowgirls. We have
I'm there.
ranchers
Sold.
and everything. And we got, if you come over
Yes,
here into
that-
Gillette, Wyoming, we have an axe house.
You've asked about cowgirls up there before, or was that in Texas?
I asked about it in Texas last time.
Right. well, you've got
Listen.
two states.
Cowgirls are cool,
Technically,
right? And you all know it.
technically, cowboys and cow were not what you see on the movies. They were not established that way.
They're not
My
that way
junior
in
high
my
school-
head.
My junior high school teacher was a romance fiction writer, and she was always getting requests for cowgirl, cowboy romance novels, and she never understood it. Her editor came out, and she introduced him to a real cowboy. Didn't like cowboys after that.
Yeah, maybe I won't go to Wyoming. Let's not spoil the fantasy.
Our biggest thing is I don't know if you ever remember this song, and this song is probably going to stick in your head. Those of you that do know it.
Audio infection.
Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and it's not cloudy all day.
Poop, poop.
We hardly ever have clouds, and we have antelope, and we have deer.
Oh, so it's you that we got our extra clouds from. We have
Yeah.
plenty of clouds in England.
Oh,
Now,
I
if you
should,
want wind, we have 80-mile-an-hour wind.
Oh, that's not good for motorcycling.
no, trust
Oh,
me. we got it
Sturgis.
down in
We have-
Texas, too.
Sturgis, come to Sturgis, motorcycle rally.
Well, I've got,
You,
go ahead.
I'm learning from last time.
But no. We don't, no, you're allowed to speak here. This is a safe place.
Yes, but I'm doing a self-reflection.
Okay. Well, we're down to 2 minutes, so I've got one more squirrel that I'm going to share with you guys that you can chew on, and I'm going to see what you guys have for feedback next week. And it's another quote that it was off of a movie clip, and I don't know what movie it was, something in the future, but said, so many people are unhappy with where they are and are looking for their happy elsewhere. But if you could snap your fingers and send them there, most would still feel the same way, not where they want to be. We get so hung up on where we'd rather be that we forget to make the most of where we are. Take a break from worrying about what you can't control. Live a little. And I'll read it one more time now that you guys have had kind of like, where's this going? So many people are unhappy with where they are and are looking for their happy elsewhere. But if you could snap your fingers and send them there, most would still feel the same way, not where they want to be. We get so hung up on where we'd rather be that we forget to make the most of where we are. Take a break from worrying about what you can't control. Live a little.
Kind of comes back to staying in now, right? And enjoying now.
Yeah, enjoy the journey. Life is too flippin' ass short to be worrying about what somebody else is doing, what somebody else might be thinking. Worry about yourself. You're the one that has to live with you your entire damn life.
Notice the small miracles.
Yes.
Look for them.
That is excellent advice.
And with that, we are at 8 bells, and I always try to respect your guys' time. And I want to make sure that the people who watch the recordings know what to expect. So I want to thank all of you for sticking around for the whole 2 hours, for all that you've added, and for your presence, your love, your energy. I adore and respect and love all of you, and look forward to getting to do this again with you in 7 lovely days. I wish all of you good health, good vibes, good energy. Go out in the world and, like Briggs likes to say, be nice to people.
Thanks, DJ. Have a great night.
Yep.
Thank you, CJ.
Bye.